there's only one way the great game of life can truly be lost: extinction. Over the 4 billion years of our biological history, extinction has been a constant, an esoteric predator lurking silently around every corner, in every crevice of the natural world. Extinction is the death of all members of a species. When the last organism of a species dies, the great journey of life is brought to an end. Their genes have failed to survive, and nature reclaims its matter once again. The extinct organism becomes a part of natural history, and its unique evolutionary pathway is wiped out of existence. That species will never again roam the earth. And throughout geological time, this has been the will of nature. But not all extinction events are entirely natural. In the modern age, when humans rule the world, species around the globe face a greater threat of extinction than ever before in the history of our planet. For the last 20,000 years, the needs of humans have transformed nature, amplifying the threats that other species face. Industrialization has driven up extinction rates. Deforestation, ocean acidification, and ozone depletion have altered the environment, putting thousands of species at risk. In a report by the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, they predict the extinction of 1 million species due to human activities. These endangered species can't protect themselves. This course of events can still be altered, but only if humans take it into their own hands to protect these other species. Here and now, countless species are facing challenges that evolution has not equipped them for. The stakes are life and death, and the natural rise, fall, and extinction rate of countless species hangs in the balance. But it is not too late to help.
This is the story of the Holocene, when humans conquered the planet. Nature's pursuit for biodiversity has been unknowingly uprooted by the interests of a single species. And though we can't cast the blame on any particular group or people, we can still take action to prevent further extinction events. If we learn about our environment and take responsibility as an entire species, it is not too late to reverse our impact on the creatures around us and allow them to thrive as they did before the era of humans.
A key development in their protection is the Endangered Species Act. Signed into law by President Nixon on December 28, 1973, a team of lawyers and scientists designed the ESA to protect critically imperiled species from extinction. And quoting from the Act, these species are protected as a consequence of economic growth and development untempered by adequate concern and conservation. The Act uses the best scientific and commercial data to determine if a species has become in danger of extinction. Biodiversity protection laws such as the ESA are designed to protect and recover species, as well as the ecosystems upon which they depend. This includes protections from a variety of active forces, such as climate change, overexploitation, invasive species, land use change, and habitat loss. It's legislation like this that gives species a chance for survival. These are the major elements of the ESA. I've included key legal requirements of the Act for your further understanding. These include requirements of the federal government and federal agencies to ensure that the Endangered Species Act remains properly enforced. How does a species get listed? To be considered for listing, the species must meet one of 5 criteria. I've included them here for your perusal. All of these criteria pertain to factors that threaten their continued existence. Species can be listed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Marine Fisheries Service, or by a petition from an individual or organization. Listing categories include extinct, endangered, threatened, and delisted. The ESA allows the Fish and Wildlife Service and National Marine Fisheries Service to designate critical habitat zones. To determine critical habitat, the needs of the animals are considered, including space for population growth, food, water, light, nutritional requirements, and enough room for breeding sites. Critical habitat can be on private or public lands. A study by the Stanford Environmental Law Society found that species with designated critical habitat were twice as likely to be improving. The Endangered Species Act provides funding from the federal government for state wildlife agencies to develop their own programs. Therefore, endangered species lists vary by each state. Here in California, our laws are usually more strict. One such law is the California Coastal Act of 1976. It guides how land is developed along the California coast, and it can also protect it from development. It balances the importance of public access to the coast with preservation of the coastal and marine habitats. The ESA is administered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service. These agencies are required to create an endangered species recovery plan that outlines goals, tasks required, likely costs, and an estimated timeline for the recovery of the endangered species. When a species is listed as endangered, take prohibitions are extended to it. Take, as defined by the ESA, means to harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, collect, or to attempt to engage with the species in any such conduct. There are different degrees of violating these laws. Trafficking and knowingly taking listed species are the most punishable offenses. The penalties for these violations can be a maximum fine of $50,000, imprisonment for 1 year, or both. Enforcement of these laws in California is provided by several institutions, from federal down to municipal. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the California Coastal Commission, California State Parks and Beaches, local municipalities along the coast, and others. The ESA has historically been underfunded. Determining funding for these programs is up to Congress, and while wildlife conservation groups urge them to increase the budget for the Endangered Species Act, Congress has tended toward the bare minimum. Funding acts like the Endangered Species Act is currently the only way on a federal level to prevent these species extinction. Enforcement can only be effective if there is enough funding. The budgetary limitations placed on enforcement keep the ESA from realizing its full potential. The Act is incredibly thorough in its approach, and if it were fully funded and made a priority by Congress, our current extinction crisis could be slowed. Hundreds of species are left at the brink of extinction simply because there is not enough money being put toward protecting and recovering them. A species can be taken off the endangered species list when the threats to their survival are eliminated or controlled, the size and growth rate of the population is at a sustainable level, and the habitat is at a stable quality and quantity. A species can also be downlisted, which means that some, but not all of the threats have been controlled, and the population has met recovery objectives. This can cause them to be reclassified from endangered to threatened. Though the Act's goal is to recover species so they are no longer listed, this delisting has happened for less than 50 species since the Act was passed. Several listed species have instead gone extinct, exemplifying the difficulty in securing funding and enforcement for such a conservation effort. Listing endangered species as early as possible significantly improves the likelihood of their recovery and provides land managers and citizens more options for protection. Acting quickly and decisively means protecting disappearing species at less social and economic cost. Though there are conflicting points of view about the effectiveness of the Endangered Species Act, a real problem at the heart of the issue is a lack of proper funding for enforcement and a lack of awareness and understanding in the public and congressional spheres.
But any individual can take it upon themselves to learn more about wildlife conservation. And with a unified effort to secure more funding and movements to help influence and prioritize conservation, we humans can still recover these species from the brink of extinction.
Thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for more videos from us about Orange County's endangered species.